Welcome back to Books with AR, Chapter 62, Calamity. Outside the building, Huang Long stopped and whispered to Wang Lin, "Here is the scripture library. You can go inside. On the first floor are mainly techniques for the qi condensation stage. You can look around in there, but focus your attention on the second floor, because that's where the techniques for foundation building stage are. I'll wait for you outside." Wang Lin was a bit nervous. He took a deep breath and walked inside. This building had 4 floors. On the first floor were numerous pieces of green jade floating on shelves and emitting green light. Pu Nan mocked. "There is no need to look. What kind of things are there? These are all low-quality techniques. Back then, I won't even bother to look at them." Wang Lin didn't rush up to the second floor or listen to Pu Nan's words. He walked to each piece of jade and checked out what techniques were inside them. His hand also formed seal to test out the techniques. Wang Lin picked up a piece of jade and closely looked at it. "Top quality technique, fire dragon." Pu Nan immediately said, "Piece of shit top quality technique. This is clearly the low quality fire control technique. My soul fire technique is a real top quality technique." Wang Lin was stunned. He put it down and picked up another one. "Top quality technique, earth escape." "Trash, complete trash. Where I come from, you can get this from anywhere, and they dare to call it a top quality technique? My 5-element escape is a real top quality technique." "Top quality technique, windblade." "This is still trash. I know howling gale. It is 100 times more powerful." "9-day thunder formation." What is all crap? It is clearly just a bad thunder technique. Why give it such a powerful sounding name? Trash. "Immortal transformation." This is kind of interesting, but still trash. I know greater immortal transformation. It is 100 times more powerful. Pu Nan mocked each technique one by one, making Wang Lin frown even more. He finally couldn't stand it anymore and went to the second floor. There weren't as many jades on the second floor, just a few dozen jade floating in the air. Pu Nan lazily said, "All of these are low quality. There is no need to look at them." Wang Lin wryly smiled and thought, "You are a senior from a rank 6 cultivation country. Of course none of these techniques are good enough for you." Pu Nan urged, "Wang Lin, you don't need to look at this. Quickly find a place to go into closed-door training in, and once you reach foundation building, you can leave this small sect." The previous mood of anticipation had all been destroyed by Pu Nan. So Wang Lin walked out of the scripture library frowning. When Huang Long saw Wang Lin leaving, he was stunned and asked, "You pick that quickly? You have to carefully choose. This scripture library contains the best techniques in the cultivation country of Zhao. Other people don't even have the qualifications to enter. You shouldn't waste it." Wang Lin's expression was a bit odd. Pu Nan's mocking and elder's praise caused a large conflict in his heart. He said, "Disciple has already chosen." Huang Long frowned and was about to ask him which technique he chose when the entire Pine Peak suddenly started to shake. "I am Dao Sect's Pu Nanzi. Juniors of the Heng Yue Sect, quickly come out and greet me." Huang Long's expression suddenly changed. At that moment, more than 10 figures rushed out from the surrounding buildings. The 2 figures in front were the most noticeable. One of those 2 had a red complexion with eyes that were clear and piercing. Next to him was an old woman. Her face was full of wrinkles and was very gloomy. She coldly looked at Huang Long and Wang Lin, then silently looked into the sky. Behind those 2 were 10 elders, all with bitter expressions on their faces. Pu Nan seriously said, "Wang Lin, there is a Nascent Soul cultivator outside. The Heng Yue Sect is in big trouble now. You should find the chance and escape. With me here, I can temporarily make it so that he can't sense you. If I had my body, I wouldn't be afraid of a mere Nascent Soul." Wang Lin took a deep breath. His expression was very unsettled. The red-faced man loudly said, "Senior Pu Nan, I don't know why you have come to our Heng Yue Sect. Please tell us." A tall figure appeared in the air. His face was very dignified and said in a low voice, "If it was 500 years ago, I would be intimidated by the Heng Yue Sect's defense formation. But looking at it now, it is only so-so. After I have broken this formation, I'll talk to you juniors." With that, he waved his hand, and a small black-colored hill appeared. This small hill started moving and created wind, which soon created a giant tornado. He both his hands formed a seal, and a few very complex words came out of his mouth. The giant hill slammed down toward the ground. A light screen appeared between the Pine Peak and the Heng Yue Peak. The light screen formed a concave bowl and blocked the blow for the Heng Yue Sect. No less from a great sect from 500 years ago. This defense formation will have some advanced techniques behind it. It can spread the power of the impact around. But I have to see without a Nascent Soul to maintain it, how many of my attacks can it take? Pu Nanzi let out a cold snort. His hand quickly moved and formed another giant tornado and slammed down again. The red-faced man's expression became pale. He swiped in the air before him and created a rift. He quickly went into the rift, and the people behind him followed. Huang Long quickly whispered, "Wang Lin, follow closely." With that, his body shot like an arrow and went into the rift. Wang Lin took a step and closely followed behind them. At that moment, the tornado smashed down again. A thunderous roar appeared when the tornado hit the light screen. Rainbow-colored light shone from the light screen, which was barely holding up. Wang Lin entered the rift, and after he exited the rift, he appeared again on the stage on the Pine Peak. Right now, the red-faced man and the old woman sat on top of one of the 8 white jade pillars. Their hands formed many different seals while chanting some complex chants. On the other 6 white jade pillars sat 6 other foundation-building elders. Each of their faces were bitter and unsettled. The old woman said, "Wang Lin, quickly gather all the inner disciples here. The greatest disaster my Heng Yue Sect will face is this." With that, she spit out a mouthful of core energy into the white pillar. Huang Long's body shook. Without a word, he charged towards the bridge back to the Heng Yue Peak. Ha! It was able to withstand 2 attacks. "Break for me on this 3rd attack." Pu Nanzi let out a cold snort. He spit out a mouthful of Nascent Soul energy into the small hill, and it grew 10 times its size, covering the sky over Pine Peak. With a bang, one of the white jade pillars broke, and the foundation-building elder on top of the white jade pillar bled from his orifices and fell onto the ground. Welcome back to Books with AR. Chapter 63. Powerful. "Break for me! Break! Break!" Pu Nanzi's expression became serious. His hands were constantly swinging as the giant tornado slammed against the mountain. All of the people in the surrounding towns and villages were too scared to go outside, so they hid in their houses. The more brave people looked out of their windows and saw a giant mountain floating in the air, constantly slamming down. Another white jade broke, and another foundation-building elder coughed out a mouthful of blood and fell down. Pu Nanzi took out a purple gourd. His hand formed a seal and spoke some complicated chants. The gourd trembled, and red liquid came out of it. The moment the liquid appeared, it lit on fire and surrounded the tornado. "Break!" Pu Nanzi let out a roar and slammed the flaming tornado down. With a boom, numerous cracks appeared on the light screen and began to spread. 2 more white jades broke, and 2 more elders fell down. Of the 8 white pillars, only 4 remained. Aside from the 2 core formation elders, the 2 foundation-building elders' faces were completely ashen, and their bodies trembled. They had clearly reached their limit. Huang Long had already brought all of the inner disciples here. All of their faces were filled with shock and fear. Wang Ha was also among them. His face was still pale, but a lot better than before. When he saw Wang Lin, he walked up to him and stared dumbfounded into the sky, unable to say a word. Pu Nanzi's face was dark as he floated in the sky. This defense formation's strength was beyond his expectation. He knew that this formation wasn't at full powerful. If there was a nascent soul cultivator controlling it, it would be a lot more powerful. Right now, this formation could only defend and do nothing else. But if there was a nascent soul cultivator here, its power would be terrifying. As the red-faced elder watched his foundation-building juniors fall one by one, his heart bled. He shouted, "Senior Pu Nanzi, yours Wen Dao sect has always had a good relationship with our Heng Yue Sect. Do you really want to kill us all?" Pu Nanzi snorted and said, Liu Venju, you went from being just a junior 500 years ago to a core member of the Heng Yue Sect and have even reached core formation. It is a shame to destroy this formation. If you open it yourself, things will be easier for you all. The core formation expert Liu Venju hesitated, and the old woman suddenly shouted, in an angry voice, Senior Pu Nanzi, I can't obey. Pu Nanzi let out a crazed laugh. His face sunk and he shouted, Fine, this defense formation, break for me. With that, he waved his hand and the giant tornado rose high in the air. His face turned red as he spat out more Nascent Soul energy and the tornado grew even larger. Break! Pu Nanzi's hand seal changed and he signaled the tornado to go down. The giant tornado released buzzing sounds as it pushed down a bit more. With a cracking sound, the cracks in the light screen increased and another white pillar broke as another foundation building elder fell down. The giant tornado fell another inch, and the last foundation building elder coughed out a mouthful of blood and fell down. Break! With Pu Nanzi's shout, the giant tornado pressed down and sunk 3 inches. The pine peak shook. With a thunderous roar, the entire mountain sunk dozens of meters into the ground. The stone bridge connected to the Heng Yue Sect broke in half and fell down the cliff. Meanwhile, the Heng Yue Sect's defense formation finally couldn't hold out anymore and shattered into tiny pieces and disappeared. The last 2 white jade pillars broke, and the 2 core formation elders fell onto the ground with bitter expressions, unable to say a word. Pu Nanzi let out a cold snort. He slowly floated to the ground, and the giant tornado still floated in the air, releasing a powerful pressure. After Pu Nanzi landed, he said with a cold expression, Who here is Wang Lin? Wang Lin had already backed up into the crowd of inner disciples. He never thought that this Nascent Soul expert would do the first thing was look for him. All of the surrounding disciples' gazes turned to him. Pu Nanzi scanned the group, and his gaze fell on Wang Lin, and he raised his brow and figured that this must be Wang Lin. Before, his junior Ouyang had mentioned Wang Lin many times and said that their losses were entirely due to Wang Lin, and he really wanted to recruit him. Pu Nanzi had always wanted the Heng Yue Sect land. This time, he thought that with Zhou Peng, they would win for sure and would take over the Heng Yue Sect's land without openly using force. But this Wang Lin's appearance disrupted his plan and forced him to appear and forcibly take the land. Pu Nanzi's demeanor was cold as he asked, You are Wang Lin? Wang Lin took a deep breath. He clasped his hands and respectfully said, Disciple is Wang Lin, and he greets Senior Pu Nanzi. Pu Nanzi nodded his head. He turned to Liu Venju and the core formation old woman and said, The Nascent Soul cultivators of the Heng Yue Sect have all died fighting in another country. You guys no longer have the ability to keep this Heng Yue mountain. Instead of letting another sect steal it, why not give it to my Zhuandao sect? Liu Venju gave the old woman a bitter look and said, Senior, please consider the good relationship between the 2 sects and not... Without letting Liu Venju finish speaking, Pu Nanzi interrupted and impatiently said, Leave. Besides the people, nothing else can leave. If you keep bugging me, I don't mind wiping out the entire sect. The old woman became furious and was about to charge in when Liu Venju stopped her. He took a deep breath and respectfully said, Junior obeys. But this Heng Yue mountain has been our sect for thousands of years, and Junior doesn't have the right to give it away. Junior can only agree to lend it. If in the future, Pu Nanzi sneered. He once again interrupted and said, Lend? That's fine. Lend it to my Zhuandao sect for 100,000 years. All of the inner disciples were furious, but none of them dared to display it. They all felt very depressed and stayed silent. Some of the disciples began to think about themselves. Pu Nanzi's face swept the area and landed on Huang Long. He said, "You, leave behind your purple moon sword. My junior Ouyang has his eyes on it." Huang Long endured the humiliation and clenched his hands. He looked toward Liu Venju and the old woman. When he found that they were waiting for him, he let out a sigh, took out the sword, and threw it on the ground. Pu Nanzi grabbed with his right hand, and the purple moon sword flew into his hand. The moment the sword entered his grasp, a purple gas came out of the sword and formed into a giant dragon.